Alright, so this is video 2 now. I believe we just left off here. So obviously make sure, if you're watching this now, make sure you watch the first one. Alright, so as I said before, you have two different types of crime scenes. You have your primary scenes, as you see up here in this photo here, where they think a crime occurred, and then on the outside, you have your secondary scene. Again, this is just examples. It could be a car, it could be multiple. It could be car, it could be outside, it could be the woods. Those are all could be examples of secondary scenes, and they could be all of them. So that's why it's important. Really, the police might set up a few different perimeters. So the secondary scene is like what it means basically is it could be related to the crime, but it may not be where the actual crime took place. So they might find, I don't know, for instance, if a crime occurred on the outside, they might find boot prints on the outside. They might find DNA on the outside. So again, all that stuff can kind of vary in terms of that. All right. So again, crime scene investigation. So this is again see the scene. So it's all my bad. So again, scanning the scene. This is all part of scanning the scene, taking your photography unit. Let me see. Yeah, there we go. Sorry. Seeing the scene. So this is why you see pictures. A photographer usually shows up. Now you see this picture right here. You take a ruler and you want to get a close-up view and give it perspective in terms of the size and kind of what you're looking at. So you might like set up like a pencil. You might set up an object to give it context in terms of how large it is. Because sometimes it's hard to tell by a picture. So the photography unit comes in and they take photos of the overall area. So they take stuff from far away. They get different angles, different shots, and they come in and they do the close-ups. So that's kind of what that happens with that. So you see this. This is the overall photos. You see, like again, the overall context of the crime scene. You see the wide view. You see the evidence laid out. And then what a photographer would do, they go to each marker, and they would take a close-up view of that. So that's kind of how that would work. So as you see, this is your mid-range photo. Obviously something that's close but still far away. It gives context to like what objects were around that particular piece. So this is obviously evidence piece number 4. You take that mid-range and it sees all the things that are around that. And then you see your close-up. So there's tons of photos that are taken at a crime scene. Tons. All right, now you want to sketch the scene. Now this is where like, you're artistic. So if anybody in here is artsy, and you want to pursue a career, also you're interested in like the crime scene stuff, this is also could be a cool little option. So you sketch the crime scene. Now it's kind of hard in my picture here. I'll move it. So you want to label the north, south, east, west of your picture. You want to put all important objects, the weapon, body should be measured from 2 immovable objects. So for instance, a door. You can't move a door. So you want to try to take pictures of, weapon, body, whatever, next to something that, really can't be moving, 2 landmarks. Any other objects in the vicinity of the crime should be included in the sketch, like doors, windows, furniture, trees, vehicles. You also want, date, time, location, case number, names, all sketched within the sketch, obviously. So pretty simple as far as that goes. Then you want your search for evidence. This, again, is all part of the S's, the seven S's. So there's different types of search techniques that can be used. You have your spiral thing. So like what police do, they go to a crime scene and they do a spiral. They might start here and they do a little to look for, again, clues, blood, DNA, boot prints, whatever the case might be. So this is one technique that could be used. Then you might use your grid technique. This is mostly used, and you see this a lot in like larger areas where you see somebody, you might start here, go around there, go around, and you grid it. You're looking for clues. And you can use your linear, so you might have multiple people looking at a big crime scene as well. Then you have your quadrant. You break a large area into small zones. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna break up the bedroom and look at this corner, and look at that corner, and look at this corner, and look at that corner. And then from there, you move on to the next room. You do the same thing. You break into quadrants. I'm looking this area first, then here, then there, then there. So nothing gets missed. So handling collected evidence. So obviously, the wrong way. Why is this wrong? I'll let you think about it for a second. Oh, spoiler alert. There is no gloves. Again, transfer of DNA, low card exchange. So when you're at the crime scene and you're handling evidence, you want to make sure you're having proper equipment on to protect the integrity of the crime scene. All right, so securing and collecting the evidence. All evidence must be properly packaged, sealed, and labeled using specific techniques and procedures. So as I just talked about with that picture, you want to, if you're using, smaller things or picking up things, you want gloves, or even for smaller items, you want to use metal or plastic forceps that kind of squeeze the object, as you guys see right here in this picture right here, this blue thing, a forceps. You're picking up small items. Um, you might put that in the plastic pill bottles with lids, are preferred for hairs, glass, fibers, and other types of trace evidence to make sure that's sealed. And then you have your liquids and arson remains are stored in airtight, unbreakable containers as well. So you see that right here, the evidence. You label your evidence, and then down here, chain of custody. What that means is these are, if you go back and you look at the evidence, you look through this bag here, you gotta put your name, date, time, etc. Because you wanna make sure that you know who is all coming into contact with this piece of evidence. So this is kind of what I just said here. The evidence log and chain of custody. Each person who comes into contact with a piece of evidence must, show proper procedures. It's very important for court. If something goes wrong where you don't fill this out, that can really hurt the prosecutor's case for convicting a suspect. Again, they have the right to a fair trial, so you don't want to make sure that you're, not following procedures. So it's very, very, very important as far as this goes. You want your control samples. Control samples should be taken from the victim for purposes of exclusion. So when you have a victim, you take, a blood sample, a hair sample, things of that nature. Oh, my bad. Things of that nature. Standard reference sample, physical evidence whose origin is known, such as blood or hair from a suspect that can be compared to crime scene evidence. So obviously, if you have a suspect, take a sample to make sure that if you have evidence from a crime scene, you can cross-reference that to make sure, okay, does the DNA, does the swab, hair, does it match what we found at the crime scene? Obviously, if it doesn't, then that might bring some red flags. They may not have the right suspect. So it just depends. Analyze the evidence. A forensic lab processes all evidence the crime scene investigators team collects. So you usually have a forensic lab technician that are specialized. So you have your blood people, you have your saliva people, whatever. So you have your ballistics people deal with bullets. So you kind of want to send it to the right people who are experts on that particular field. And then finally, this is the last thing. You want to reconstruct the crime scene. So this is crime scene reconstruction allows the detectives and investigators to form hypothesis, what they think may have happened based upon the evidence. Again, the evidence tells a story. So essentially, you want to try to reconstruct that to see if everything matches up. Does the evidence tell the story? Does it all match up? So this could help with motives. This can help with how the person was killed or hurt, or whatever the case might be. All right, so that is it for lecture. Thank you. See you later.